I'm CK. Tonight we're going to have a short segment. I was browsing around on Adafruit.com the other day and saw this little kit called Minty Boost. It is a portable USB charger. Now what's interesting about this kit and why I'm doing it on camera for you all is, first off, it's going to be a quick and easy build, I believe. This time I really haven't opened the package first. The other thing is, on Adafruit's website, besides showing you how to build it, the designer of the kit also includes, I've also documented the process of designing this kit. So if you've got a youngster who's getting interested in going a little bit further in electronics besides simply plugging things together on a Arduino or on a breadboard and wants to start making or thinking about designing stuff, I think this kit could be very interesting to them. So we'll dive into it and see how much fun it is. Let's see what's in the bag. I have to put my visor on. And look at the label. Minty Boost Kit version 3.0. Let me get a little parts tray. It has styrofoam in it. Let me get rid of that. Let's see what we get in our little kit. First off, we get very good zipping material. That was hard to get open. Bag's empty. And we've got an 8-pin chip, an LT1302, a standard old style USB connector. I say old style. Some double-sided tape. Looks like an inductor. A couple of resistors. A diode. Very tiny little board. 2 ceramic caps, 1 electrolytic cap. So the biggest component in this is the inductor. That's always interesting. And of course, oops, I'm sorry, here's another couple stuck in the battery container. A couple of more resistors and another electrolytic and a little battery holder. So that's it. Again, a very simple kit. I'm going to look and see, and this is by Lady Ada, is the author and designer of this kit, and it looks like if you go to her site, her subsite on Adafruit, looks like she's got a bunch of different things, so you may want to look in that after I post the link. So let's see what her Make It page says. It's a very easy kit to make. Just go through each of the steps to build the kit. Well, that's pretty much what you do for any kit. So again, this is very, 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 very aimed at beginners or intermediate. So I think this is very good. She goes through everything you need, from iron to solder to a multimeter to diagonal cutters, a solder sucker, and third hand with magnifier if you want that. And this chip is what I thought it was going to be, because we're coming in, if it takes 2 AA batteries, so that's 1.5 times 2, so that's 3. Did you notice I didn't have to use a calculator for that? I'm impressed. But USB, you need a good 5-volt output. So this is a voltage boost or a boost converter that'll take the voltage from AA batteries up to 5 volts for USB. And then she's got a schematic, which is always good. People learn wonderfully when they get schematics. And now I'm going to look at the soldering instructions just to be sure there aren't any particularly tricky bits that she might point out. I'm just glancing through all the pictures, and again, tons of pictures. This is a really excellent beginner's project. I like it very much already. So I didn't see anything in a quick glance. I didn't see anything particularly out of the ordinary. So we'll use a pan of ice today instead of the printed circuit board holder. And maybe I'll even speed through the exciting screwing the jaws of the pan of ice together segment of this video. And the board is on the back, version 3, Minty Boost, Adafruit, and on the other side it's got the components, diode, capacitors, the USB connector, the inductor, and the chip. There's a resistor right under the IC, so we're going to have to, again, if you're working with a youngster on this, there are certain checkpoints, and I would certainly recommend that before they solder the IC circuit to, the IC socket to the board, that you ask them to stop and have you double check their work, since if they get that resistor wrong, you might never notice it because it'll be covered up by the IC. Okay. So first we put in the 3.3K ohm resistor, and that's the one that goes right under. The IC socket. Actually, I'm going to take it out of the pan of ice while I'm putting components in the board. I don't need it for that. Now again, and I do, when I complain a lot, and when I praise a lot. So as she talks about resistor R5, this is a small oval tan thing with 2 wires. The stripes indicate the value. And then she goes on to say, this resistor is used to improve the high current capacity of the boost converter chip and is a new addition to the mini board. And then again, resistors are non-polar, which means they don't have a direction. It's great that we're going through all this detail. Now she's saying go ahead and solder that piece right now, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to solder it all in a bunch. These are not what's shown on the diagram. These are supposed to be 49K. Let's see what they are. These are 73 kilo ohm, not 49. And I'm not quite sure why. Her description says that these resistors used by Apple iPhones determine what charger is plugged in, so they're sense resistors. So I don't know if it matters. We'll see when we plug it into the iPad if the change in these resistors from 49K to 70 some is going to affect charging rates or something like that. I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, the worst that can happen is it won't work. The only challenge is these are a different length, so we're going to have to install them vertically instead of flat on the board, which is not a big deal. If we're making a custom case for this later, we just have to make sure it goes the other way. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and solder the resistors in, because this board is so tiny, there's not a lot of room to work, so I'll just get that out of the way. I'm going to use my 0.025 solder for this, because this board is small and the solder pads are small, so I want to go tiny with the solder. One thing I have not mentioned or touched on is the quality of the board. It's okay. It's not bad, as a lot of them I've seen are, but it's not the best. The plating is through hole, which is really nice, as I often say, but the pads are just very slightly solder phobic. It takes a little more time and heat to get the solder to flow on the pad. Not a big deal, just something. It's interesting, this is not stranded, it's solid core, which is okay. That just means I want to be careful with it when I do finally get around to putting this in a case or whatever. I don't want to stress it by bending it back and forth too many times. Okay. Now we're going to put the boost chip in, and I don't need to tell most of you this, but if you're working with somebody who hasn't done this stuff before, this is the part that they can mess up very easily and get very sad. So please, the first time or the first 10 times someone you're teaching or coaching is putting ICs in sockets, be right there with them and give them whatever guidance you can, because nothing's worse than the first time you push an IC in a socket and you see the legs splay out I did that on my original Apple II when I went from 16 kilobytes of memory to 32 kilobytes of memory, and I messed up a chip that way. And number one, I was sad because I couldn't move up to 32 kilobytes and get some more graphics on the screen, but more importantly, that was expensive then. That was quite a mistake, price-wise. Okay, so the chip went in really easily. Now we're going to, before we put the USB socket on here, we're going to test to make sure this works. So let's get this little beast all finished up. So where were we? About to test it. And put the batteries in. Brand new fresh batteries. Let's go to DC voltage on the meter. And we should be getting 5 volts-ish. And there we go. 5.001, which is close enough to 5, isn't it? Let's check the inner pins. Should be about 2-ish. I'm not getting anything on the inner pins. I don't think I care, because that's not going to matter for charging. It's just interesting. Don't know what the deal is on that, but the main thing is we've got 5 volts on the output pins for charging, so that's good. So I'm going to disconnect one of these batteries and solder the, let me go back to her steps. And there we go. Now, the next test. We're going to take this iPad and see if this recognizes it. So I'm going to move this camera a little bit and zoom in on the battery indicator. As you can see, since it's plugged into the wall right now, it's showing 100% and the little icon indicating that it's connected to power. So let me disconnect it from the wall socket, and it goes away. The lightning indicator, that is, goes away. Now I'll put the battery back in this contraption, and now we'll plug the USB cord in. And we did it upside down, of course, because that's what happens with USB. And it's plugged in, and we ain't getting nothing. So this iPad is not recognizing it. Let me just double check that voltage is still going out. Yeah, it's still got 5 volts going. Oh, there it goes. I'm sorry, I didn't wait long enough. Took a little while now. It's recognizing it. And charging, probably. So that's it. A cute little kit. A good starter kit, because it's got a limited number of components. It's got a clear end goal, In other words, anyone who's playing around with this and investigating will know exactly what the point is and what success is. The instructions are very detailed. I'm trying to get this stupid battery out and it's fighting me. The instructions are very detailed and very full of information about why you're doing what you're doing. And in the end, you get a nice little charger that you can carry around or put in your put in a fancy little case to impress your friends or whatever. So except for the very minor thing that the board is a little bit packed and a beginning solder technician enthusiast may have a little trouble working with it. But beyond that, it's a great kit. And again, the link will be in the in the description. And I hope you enjoyed the video.